Today, I'll go through quickly a series of announcements. I'm not going to do that every time, but I want you to remember that we have an announcement page. And I will I'll do one or two in-class activities because that'll be an opportunity also to know each other a little bit. We did a technology map on Tuesday, and I'm going to review those when I have time. After the in-class activities about, one is car ownership, the other is the personal or emotional relationship with cars in your life. I will introduce the film. Every Thursday we will watch a selection of scenes from a film, and often the film will be shown across 2 weeks so that we have a broad enough selection of scenes to give you a good idea of the themes of the film. The film itself, which is Herbie the Love Bag, produced by Walt Disney and released in 1968, one of the most successful, one of the top 3 grossing films that year, is available on Amazon Prime, is available on other streaming platforms. In fact, if you have a local library and you still have a DVD player or a Blu-ray, local libraries tend to have that film. After that, I will show you the instructions for the first assignment. Okay. So, as I mentioned on Tuesday, I am the director of the Center for Italian Studies here at Stony Brook, which is a Stony Brook institution, one of the first centers sponsored by a community, an outside community. We have been in existence since 1985. And one of the highlights of the fall programming by the center is the Concorso d'Eleganza, so much so that it has reached its 19th edition, and this will be my third concorso to organize. We invite Italian cars and motorcycles, vintage and modern, as long as they are worthy of being presented at a car show. I might bring there this year my electric Fiat. Last year I brought the other Fiat, the red Fiat, but right now it cannot circulate, has become illegal. Couldn't pass the inspection. When you modify a car, you take that chance, of course. And not only I would like to invite you, if you have time or if you live on the campus, Sunday, September 7th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. the cars will be on display. Usually cars start arriving around 9 a.m. or earlier. And usually we have between 50 and 70 cars and motorcycles. We even have ballots for the people in attendance. Last year, 220 people voted. Not everyone who came voted, but we had more than 200 votes. And you decide best in show for the motorcycle and the automobile category. You can see pictures. If you click on the links, you can see pictures of that I took. This is the Alfa Romeo 4C that I was referring to. It's quite unique. This is a relatively rare Ferrari 288. So you can have an idea of what we do. We're not in this beautiful lawn. We are in parking lot 2 between Wine Center and Taban Hall because this space is being used for constructions. But I also wanted to mention that because if you have time and you think you can help, I can offer extra credit. Last year, we had one student last year, one student the previous year. They were both tremendously helpful throughout the day. You can, and as you see here, I offer up to 3 points. It depends on what you can offer and how much time you have. Because we get to the parking lot at 7 a.m. with a rented van, U-Haul van, loaded with tents, with other tables, other stuff for the concurso, and we start putting it together. And usually we leave the space by 3 p.m. So it doesn't mean that you have to give us that much time. It can be a portion of that time and proportionate to your contribution and your time. Some extra credit is available, okay? So it's on the announcement page. You can email me, you can talk to me, but let me know by Thursday of next week, because we need also to assign roles to know how many students we have, other students, not from this class, students connected to the center who are going to help as well. So we need to know how to get organized. As I said before, if you missed the first class, a video is available on the class website under week 1 and on YouTube, on my public TV YouTube channel. It's only about 45 minutes because I cut the actual group activity. I cut the silly introduction. I just left the key concepts, the introduction of the in-class activity, because let's say later on you miss a class, but not to miss on participation, you want to make up for that by doing an in-class activity and handing it to me when you come back to class. This way you would have the same clear instructions that the others received, and at the very end we have the website. Okay? And so the same will happen for every class. Classes will be recorded. I'm recording it right now. The quality might not be great. I mean, it's in HD, but it's a fixed angle. Sometimes I might walk out of the frame because I'm here for you, not to record a video. But it's better than nothing, or just borrowing notes from another student, right? I also believe that later on, when you prepare for the midterm or the final and you have a short list of topics, it might be useful to go and review just the segment devoted to a particular reading or to a film. The YouTube videos have chapters marked so that you can skip and get to just the beginning of one section, okay? I did other updates and I posted them here. I also reduced, since I've adjusted the syllabus compared to last year, I reduced the number of documents for the final project. For the final project, there is a whole page that you can visit right now, but we're working with documents from the early 20th century, primary sources on the automobile, in particular short stories where people buy a car, go out with a car, stories where the automobile has a crucial role in the narrative. Last year, students had to catalog and analyze 3 of them. There is a template to follow. I've scaled that down to 2 and adjusted the length, the recommended minimum length in the number of words. And that's everything. I'll briefly introduce the film, and then we'll watch the initial scenes from Herbie the Love Bug. This is the first. It was so successful that it became a series with several films. I used to own all of them in VHS tapes and watch them. Actually, I myself, as a kid in Italy, went to see this movie, and I loved it. And then they gave me a toy car that was painted like the car in the film, and like the car in the film, if you pressed a button, it broke in half, because this is how the film concludes. So while I'm introducing, I'll circulate. This time I have a properly lined form with a space for your name, and please do last and first this time so I can sort them out. so that during the film or right after you can write a few comments. Don't spend the whole time writing. Try to see the film, and you don't have to write to describe the scenes, but just comment on, of course, details that have to do with the representation of the automobile, the interaction between the user and the automobile, just to show that you're paying attention and that you have independent reasoning. You're able to apply, especially later on, ideas from the class to this. This is the first of 3 films that we will watch, focusing on the same theme and narrative pattern, storyline pattern. That is to say, films in which somebody comes into contact with the technology of the automobile only to discover that this particular piece of technology, this particular car, is also a sentient being with emotions, with a personality, more importantly, with the ability to develop psychologically, to grow and change psychologically, okay? Because, of course, you find in fairy tales, in other circumstances, in literature of different kinds, you find magical beings that have a soul. But there is more to this. What's interesting about this film and others that are similar, produced through the years, is that both the user of the car, the owner of the car, Jim, and the car itself have a developing arc. Okay, their relationship changes, their inner world changes. So the part we see now establishes the premise. And this is common to these films. In the premise, you see the protagonist as a failure, as someone who's incomplete, someone who has exhausted their resources to advance in life. In this case, Jim is a race car pilot, driver, and it seems like his career is almost over. And then you have the encounter with both new people and you'll find this in other films of this kind, an encounter that changes Jim's life with other people and also with this car that he will discover little by little is also some kind of sentient creature. The basic theme of the film is very Californian, and 1968 is also the beginning, the strong coming up of the New Age culture in places such as San Francisco. In fact, one of the areas where they drive at the end of the segment that we will see is the neighborhood where the people who practice New Age lived. New Age culture, hippie culture, right? And one of the characteristics of New Age during this period is this mythological view of the East. This idea that the East of the world, Eastern philosophies, can provide humanity with a different understanding of the spiritual side of the universe, including things. There is also the theme that the constant interaction between humans and objects related to technologies has created a two-way channel of communication, whereby the more you use the technological instrument or object, and the more your humanity transfers onto it, which is interesting in different ways. Of course, we know that there are people who talk to their car. I don't know if you are one of those, or if you know somebody in your family. But especially in the past, where cars could be very temperamental, I've seen plenty of older people in my youth talking to their car, and you see that in films, right? People begging their cars to start, for example, but establishing some kind of personified relationship with their car. So this is mostly the premise. You're being introduced little by little to the car, to the main character, then to the car. Notice how they pick each other. That's also interesting. And the initial discovery that this is not an ordinary car. Okay? Under the week 1 page, you will find your assignments. In this case, they are pages that I created with notes. For the logbag, you will find a synopsis, the transcription of some dialogues, but it's a synopsis that covers practically the entire film. And if you want to explore the background, the production, there are links. I even included, since I have taught a number of cinema studies class, I've included frames of the whole film in PDF. Yes.
Do you upload the assignments on that website?
Yes, exactly. So your readings will be these pages, right? And if you want, they should be simple enough, but if you want, under week 1, you also find the YouTube videos from last year where you can find a more systematic commentary offered by me about the general introduction and about the inspiration and core concepts. I'll come back to them. I'll highlight a few things. Still within the assignments, you find a brief article about cars in society and whether or not cars are declining in importance in our societies. And then you have 2 options for a written reflection to be completed by Friday of next week, September 5th. The first one is entitled, Have Cars Lost Their Magic? And again, you find all the instructions here. Maybe I'll come back to it next week, but right now I'm not going to spend any time. So the first one is more of a personal reflection based on your own experience, your memories, or your circle of friends, your family. The alternative is based on a made-for-TV movie, which is only 40 minutes long, which is available on Amazon, based on a famous rubric, on a famous column of the New York Times called Modern Love. And it's about a woman who has lost her husband, and she in fact has another partner now, but she's still attached. The woman is played by Minnie Driver. She's still attached to the car she and her husband bought when they were first together. So it's called On a Serpentine Road with a Top Down. Both the New York Times article in which this is based, and in the New York Times article, the car was an Alfa Romeo, and the film are very nice, even moving. And in this case, the topic would be what makes the car in this short film so mystical, so magical. Okay? So these are the options, and I've included links to Amazon and to the New York Times article. For your assignments, I'm going to create Google Docs files that I'll share with each student. I just started, I created only 2, Samin, Ryan, and then people came into the office, etc. I couldn't continue. So inside this Google Docs file, you'll place all of the assignments. So the deadline is usually on a Friday by the end of the day, by midnight, but the file stays open. The file will be locked only past the deadline for the project at the end of the semester. Simply, on Saturday morning, usually I go online and check whether the assignment was submitted, and then I start reviewing them usually during the weekend. Okay? There is a template, right? And you find instructions on how to use this file in here, right? With the essentials, including the style that I created. There is a template. There would be a section where I will place the grades for your notes, right? So by next week, you'll find grades for the technology map, if you were in class for that, and your notes about the love pack. Okay, so these are the essential elements